Today we're going to be in Genesis chapter 21. Genesis chapter 21. Somebody asked me a little while ago where we're going to be. They said it's not in the bulletin. And I guess it's not. So Genesis chapter 21. When Beverly printed the bulletins out, it might have had a different passage in there. I had planned on preaching Proverbs 31, and that would have been a great, encouraging, uplifting message, throw a few jokes in there, Proverbs 31. And I started working on that message for a while, and the story of Hagar, I came across the story looking for something, and I read it, and I was like, oh, that'll be a neat sermon, another year or two, and kept working on Proverbs 31, and I came across the story again. I'm like, okay, I think the Lord wants us to hear about Hagar this morning. And so it's got a little different Mother's Day sermon. So how many of you heard a Mother's Day sermon on Hagar before? How many of you have heard a sermon on Hagar before? So I'm confident for most of you, this is going to be the best sermon on Hagar you've ever heard before. Right? So, we're going to start off with these Hershey Kisses, okay? And so I gave you the Hershey Kisses for a reason. One is because you don't have need a reason to eat chocolate, right? There's a few of you who don't like chocolate. That's okay. But Hershey Kisses are neat for moms. One, because of hugs and kisses, right? Who doesn't like a hug and kiss from their mom? But also, chocolate is sweet, isn't it? And mothers are sweet as well, and so this is a sweet day for you. But not only is chocolate sweet, what else can chocolate be? What's that? What'd you say? Fattening. But the taste, how else could it taste? Bitter. Who said bitter? All right, she got it right. I'll give you another Hershey Kiss after church. Not only is chocolate sweet, it can be bitter as well, especially dark chocolate. Anybody like dark chocolate? Right, because it's good for you, so that means you can just eat more. Okay? Well, Mother's Day is a lot like chocolate. It's sweet, but it can be a bitter day too, right? It's a little bit of bittersweetness in there. For some, it's a hard day, right? Most of you here, I'm guessing, your moms are still not alive, right? You're missing your mom today, and so it's emotional. Also, some moms have lost their children, and so it's a tough day. I'm thinking about my life with my 3 adopted daughters of the birth mothers who did a brave thing and adopted away their children, and I can imagine especially hard for them today. And then I always think about my wife. For 11 years, we didn't have kids, and that was literally the worst day of the year ever. I just knew it was going to be a day she cried all day, and it was hard for her to go to church. And so I know it's not an easy day for some people. It's bitter, sweet. Well, Hershey Kisses all started off by who? What was his name? Hershey. Y'all are very smart, right? Anybody know his first name? Somebody may have said it. I don't know. It's Milton, okay? Milton Hershey started it all, and he was married to his wife named Kitty Sweeney. And here's the interesting fact about them. They had bought some tickets to board the Titanic for the maiden voyage, and then something happened with his business. He had to get away and couldn't get on the Titanic, so interesting enough. But he and his wife didn't have children. Actually, she couldn't have children. She had his debilitating illness, and she actually died at the age of 43. So she had all these health issues, and she never had children, so it was bitter for her. But without children, she still had a mother's heart. They went and started a private school for orphans. And it's changed a little bit, but the school still exists today. They have free tuition to private school for lower-income children. And it's a highly ranked private school, and it's actually one with the most wealthiest, one of the wealthiest schools. It has over $12 billion in assets for a private school. And Mr. Hershey's always said it started off with his wife. So isn't that amazing that a woman who didn't have children still had a mother's heart? I think when you think about Hershey Kisses, when you unwrap them, realize there's far more to the story, right? And it goes back to a man and a woman who, though she had no children, still had that mother's heart. Well, today we're going to unwrap the life of Hagar, or actually it's Hagar. It's like tomato, whatever you want to call her. We're going to unwrap her life, and she's no Hershey Kiss by any means. We tend to just push her aside, her life, and if we do think about her, she's a villain, right? She's a bad woman. I mean, she slept with Abraham and disrupted the whole family, and she has this evil kid, Ishmael, and so we don't think about her very much. But we're going to see there's far more to her story. far more to her life. And there's a lot of bitterness, but there's some sweetness as well. So let's look at the story here in Genesis chapter 21. Let's begin with verse 1 so we can kind of set the context of the story. It says, "And the Lord took note of Sarah, and he said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. So Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham to his old age at the appointed time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him." What was his name? Isaac. Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, and as God commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him, and Sarah said, "God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me." And she said, "Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I've borne him a son in his old age." The child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. Now Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. Therefore she said to Abraham, "Drive out this maid and her son. For the son of this maid shall not be an heir with my son Isaac." So if you remember the story or don't know the story, Abraham and Sarah were childless for many years, for a long, long, long time. And Isaac finally comes along. Now that's not his first son. What's his first son's name? Ishmael. Okay, here's a story. Sarah got tired of waiting, so she had this maidservant named Hagar. And she says, "Okay, Abraham, I can't have any kids. I'm tired of waiting. We need kids. Take my maidservant, be with her, and have kids." Well, they were together and conceived Ishmael, and they have Ishmael, and it kind of ruins everything, right? And the story gets a little bit weird. We don't know much about Hagar, but what does it say of her there? It says Hagar the what in verse 9? Verse 9, Hagar the what? Egyptian. So we know that she was Egyptian. Now there's a story or a legend or whatever you want to call it of, if you remember when Abraham and Sarah, because of a famine, were traveling through Egypt. And Pharaoh saw how beautiful Sarah was and took him into his place, and Abraham lied about it. You remember the story? Okay, some of you do. All right, maybe you're just thinking about the Hershey Kisses. Okay, everybody with me? They're in Egypt, and Sarah goes in with Pharaoh. Remember that? Because Abraham lies about it and says, "This is my sister." And they leave Egypt. Well, as the story goes, Hagar falls in love with Sarah, and they become close friends, and she would rather go with Sarah. And actually, she's a daughter of Pharaoh, and she says it's better to be a handmaid in the tents of Abraham than a princess in this palace. Now, I'm not sure that's how that went, but apparently that's where they picked up Hagar. Well, she's in a tough position, right? I mean, I don't really think she had a choice in this matter. She has a child with Abraham, and so we're going to fast forward here 16 years, okay? About 16 years or so, Sarah has Isaac, and he's weaned, all right? And they're weaned at about age 2 or 3. And so what do they have? They have a great feast in verse 8. They have a celebration, right? How many of you like celebrations, like birthday parties, like feasts, right? How many of you like that? All right, 4 or 5 of you. Good deal. I'm keeping up with some of you. Well, it's a long way today, right? Now you think about it. Not only is it a feast, they've waited for this forever. As I said, my wife and I waited 11 years, and I'll never forget Ainsley's first Christmas. Lori's mother literally gave Ainsley like 85 Christmas presents, okay? I'm not making it up. And so she was born in September. She was about 3 months old, okay? And gives her 80-something Christmas presents, and she falls asleep before she opens them all up, okay? And they wake her up, and she's like, "What kind of crazy place am I in?" So she has to open more gifts. Why was it like that? Because they waited for so long. It was a big deal. And not only that, when you have a celebration, who cares more about it, the dad or the mom? The mom does, right? The mom tends to care about it. The dad's like, "Just tell me what to do, where to pick everything up, tell me what time to show up." The moms have to plan everything. So imagine Sarah wanted everything to go just right. I read about a party for a 9-year-old little girl recently. The mom wanted everything just right. She had a perfect birthday cake. It had a white cake with chocolate icing with roses, and it said "Happy Birthday Eden" on it. So they had the birthday party to park, and before they got to the cake, they had a scavenger hunt planned. I'm sure the mom spent hours planning this scavenger hunt. They went on the hunt, and they're on the way back, and the kids are hungry, and the kids are thirsty, and guess what? Everything is gone. The cake is gone. The drinks are gone. Everything is gone. And at first they thought it was a joke. So all the kids were running around saying, oh, the cake is gone. And they were going crazy. But soon after they found out it wasn't a joke, and somebody had stolen the birthday cake. Well, the mother, as like all moms do, had a backup plan. She had some vegetables and oranges in her car. And so they broke out with veggies and oranges. Now, I'd be mad about that, right, the birthday cake party. Catastrophe. Well, this is a catastrophe here for Sarah. They planned this thing, this big celebration, and what upsets her is not a birthday cake, it's this little boy Ishmael over here, right? By the time he's about 16 years old, he's a teenager, he's at an awkward age, he's in an awkward situation, and he mocks Isaac in the whole situation, right? You know, Isaac's name means laughter, and here Ishmael is laughing in a mocking way. And Sarah is furious. Who is this boy ruining my son's day? Who is this kid ruining this whole celebration? So she doesn't break out the veggies and oranges, does she? What does she do? You got to go. Get out of here. She throws the clothes out of the window. She changes the locks, the keys of the lock. She says, get out of here. You've got to get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore. Out of sight, out of mind. Kicked to the curb. Hagar and Ishmael. Notice verse 11. The matter distressed Abraham greatly because of his son. But God said to Abraham, don't be distressed because of the lad you made. Wherever Sarah tells you, listen to her, for through Isaac your descendants will be named. And the son of the maid I will make a nation also, and because he is your descendant. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulder, and gave her the boy and sent her away. And she departed and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. And when the water in the skin was used up, she left the boy under one of the bushes. And she sat down opposite him about a bow shot away. For she said, don't let me see the boy die. She sat opposite him and lifted up her voice and did what? She wept. Abraham sends her away, gives her a skin of water, some food. They go out in the desert and they run out of water. She puts Ishmael under a bush and shade, and she starts to cry. Now, to me, this is another dramatic point of the whole story. Put yourself in her shoes, right? She is abandoned. She is mistreated. She is alone. She is out in the wilderness with a teenager. That's hard enough as it is, right? He would have been about 16 years old or so. There's no taxi to call. There's no 911. There's no OnStar. There's no Uber. There's nothing. She is stuck in the wilderness, and she's lost all hope. And I've never thought about this before, never noticed it, but what is she thinking? Does she say, I don't want to die? No, what does she say? Don't let me see my boy die, right? Even in that difficult circumstance, we see that mother's heart. She cares about her boy. As I said, he's about 16 now, but it doesn't matter. I'm 42, and I'm still my mama's little boy, right? Mamas always care for their children. This is a picture of so many moms today, right? There's a lot of moms today that are abandoned. There's a lot of moms that are alone or lonely, that are mistreated, that have no resources. They're hopeless. They don't know what to do but to sit down and cry. Moms, have you ever felt that way? Or ladies, have you felt that way? You just wish you could cry. You could get into your room and shut the door and cry, or you get in your car when you finally are alone and you just want to sit there and cry and weep, and you've lost all hope. Being a mom's like chocolate. It's sweet, it's great, but it's also bitter. It's not always easy. You know, our hearts go out to moms today. They have a difficult time. Nowadays, there's a lot of single moms out there who are raising the children on their own, or a split family, or maybe a mom is at home with her husband, but she's mistreated by her husband. Or maybe she's not mistreated, she's just not supported. Or even if she is supported and everything's right, it is still not easy to be a mom. Somebody said this years ago, and it's still true today, 8 challenges faced by mothers of young children. Low self-esteem, monotony, loneliness, stress from too many demands, lack of time with husband, confusion about discipline, home atmosphere, need for an outside role model, and training of children. So maybe you're here today and you feel a little bit like Hagar, right? You're tired, you're weary, you just want to sit and cry. Now, that's not just for all of it, for moms, right? That's for all of us. We all get this way, moms or not, where we're just tired, we're weary, we're hopeless. Now, where is she at right now? In the desert, right? You read in the scripture, the desert is also a lot of times a time of testing. Remember, Jesus was tempted where? In the wilderness, in the desert. The Israelites, after going through Egypt, they went into the wilderness, the desert, a time of testing. And Hagar here is in a time of testing, a time of trial, tribulation, hard time. And maybe you're in a wilderness, you're in the desert, you're facing a bombardment of temptations. Maybe you're facing weariness, you're facing a trial, you're facing a family issue, you're facing stress. You just don't know what to do. Well, there's an answer for Hagar and you too, we're going to see for a minute, but this is a reminder for us that we need to encourage our moms. We need to lift them up. I think we take them all for granted. Don't you agree? I think we take them all for granted. And it's amazing what all they do. And last week we were in Hebrews and we talked about how we are to stir one another up to love and to good deeds, to encourage one another. Well, guess what? We need to stir up our moms and encourage them, build them up, and help them out. Because they're often unappreciated, right? Y'all agree? Moms, you agree? My wife's not here. She's with her family, and she's coming home today. But, man, I do a lot around the house to help out with 3 kids. But no matter what I do, I don't have the most difficult task at all. Being a mom is difficult. I read about a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. They presented their mom with a house plant. They had used their own money, so they were so excited about it. The older of them said with a sad face, though, the bouquet that we wanted to give you at the flower shop, it was real pretty, and it was expensive. It had a ribbon on it, and it said, "Rest in peace." And we thought you might need it because you need some peace and some rest, right? Moms, you knew that, don't you? Especially moms like Hagar, right? Moms that are alone, moms that are mistreated, moms that are abandoned, moms that have no support and no resources. But there's hope. Notice verse 17. What are the first 2 words there? God heard the lad crying. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What's the matter with you, Hagar? Do not fear, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad and hold him by hand, for I will make a great nation of him." And then God opened her eyes, and she saw, what did she see? A well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the lad a drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and he lived in the wilderness and became an archer. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him. Still being a mom, right? In the land of Egypt. It's amazing. God heard the boy cry. You know, I think the prayers of children are sweet. Now, he was 16 years old as a teenager, but still, God hears the prayers of the little ones, right, of children. I love hearing Emma and Chloe, my 2 youngest, 4 and 2, pray at the dinner table, right? They have that childlike faith. Their prayers are better than mine. But God hears and he responds. And God opens her eyes, and what does she see? A well of water, right? I guess during Christmas it'd be no well. I just came up with that. Some of you are seeing if you're paying attention, right? So they filled the skin up and they survived. And the boy grew up, and the mom was still involved and got him a wife. And we see her as a villain, but she's just a mom. She's caring for her kid. Now, I never really considered this before because I never preached on Hagar, but when Abraham sent her away, he gave her food. He gave her 1 skin of water, right? It'd be like a canteen made out of animal skin or something. And I thought, why did she run out of water? Didn't Abraham care about her? Why didn't he not give her enough water? And he probably gave her enough water, but maybe she got lost and needed more water. Maybe it's been a while since Abraham was out in the wilderness and forgot how bad it was. Or maybe Ishmael, or maybe it's dropped and spilled and water came out. But either way, she ran out of water. And think about it. Abraham, a man of very great wealth, a man of great faith, a man who could do anything, couldn't give her enough for her trip. But here's the thing, right? Abraham gave her a bottle, but God gave her a well, right? Abraham gave her a bottle, but God gave her a well. It's a reminder for us that moms and ladies, God gives you all that you need. As we sang earlier, He is enough, right? We're here to help you out. We can give you a bottle. Your husband can help you out. Your family and friends can help you out. But we can't give you everything you need. Only God can give you everything you need. Hagar got a bottle from Abraham, and God gave her a well. Thought about what Jesus said in John 7:37, "Let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink, for whoever believes in the Scriptures has said, streams of living water will flow from within him." Jesus said He is a living water, right? He will sustain you. He will refresh you and give you everything you need. We got the church directory pictures made a while back and bought some pictures. And when I came to take pictures with my family, I had cash in my pocket, so that would be all I spent. That was my budget. Well, I had to get out the credit card too, okay? I spent way more than enough. And the reason I spent so much is we don't get family pictures made. Poor Chloe will be 3 in about 2 months, and we didn't have a family picture of all of us together, a formal family picture. So it's like you go around the house, and we have from our first directory me and Lori and Ainsley from years ago. And then we have from our last one here of me and Lori and Ainsley and Emma. Poor Chloe's nowhere in the picture. So now we have a picture. She's on the wall. She's now part of the family officially, right? She's in the picture. Well, Mom's going to ask you, is God part of the picture of your lives, right? Is God part of the picture of your lives? You know, you are so busy going to work, or if you stay home and going to ball games and practices, and it wears me out just hearing everything going on with my family. I can't even keep up with the schedule. You get so weary, and you don't do it intentionally, but God just kind of gets put to the side. But this is a reminder for us that you need God, right? You need to go to God. Just like Hagar needed God to be refreshed from the well, you need to go to the well. You need to drink deeply of God and enjoy Him. Take time for yourselves, Mom and ladies. You're so busy taking care of others. You need to be in the Word of God. You need to pray. You need to spend time worshiping the Lord. And so we have a bottle for you, but God has a well, so you need to drink deeply. And that's not just for moms and ladies. That's for all of us, right? Because we get in the wilderness, we get tempted, we get tired, we just can't go anymore. We want to sit and cry. Guys want to sit and cry too sometimes, right? We may not want to admit it, but it gets tough for guys too, for anyone. And we need to go to God. He is our oasis in the wilderness, if you will. Let's read one more encouraging word about Hagar. Let's turn back to Genesis chapter 16. Genesis chapter 16. We're gonna rewind back to the time when Hagar was pregnant with Ishmael. So we're going to go back some 16, 17 years or so. And I want to read this passage. Genesis chapter 16, look at verse 4. Hear, Abraham. Genesis chapter 16, beginning with verse 4, it says, "And he, or Abraham, went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she conceived, her mistress despised in her sight." Was despised in her sight. "And Sarah said to Abraham, May the wrong done be me upon you. I have made my maid into your arms, but when she saw that she conceived, I was despised in her sight. May the Lord judge between you and me." But Abraham said to Sarah, "Behold, your maid is in your power. Do to her what is good in your sight." So Sarah treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. You know, Sarah was a woman of faith, but she wasn't perfect, was she? By any means. And who was the one that created all this mess to begin with? Sarah was, right? Verse 7, "The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur, and he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, where have you come from, and where are you going? And she said, I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarah. The angel of the Lord said to her, Return to your mistress and submit yourself to her authority. Moreover, the angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly multiply your descendants, so there will be too many to count. The angel of the Lord said to her further, Behold, you are with child, and you will bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has given heed to your affliction. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him, and he will live to the east of all his brothers. And then it was verse 13. And she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, You are a God who what? Sees. For she said, Have I even remained alive here after seeing him? So, when she was pregnant, Sarah treated her harshly, and she left, right? And when the wilderness, and God came to her and said, No, it's time to go back, right? And I love what it says here. She says, You are a God who sees, right? So the first situation, she's pregnant in the wilderness, God sees her and takes care of her. And the second time, what happens? God hears her and Ishmael and takes care of her. Isn't that a great encouragement for you, for ladies, for moms, is that sometimes you think, nobody knows what you're going through. Nobody cares. Nobody understands. But guess what? God sees what you're going through, And God hears you, right? And so He is there for you as an encouragement. And for all of us, God sees and God hears. And so it's a reminder that there's always reason for hope. God hears you and God sees you. Now, back to our Hershey Kisses, okay? Does anybody know why they're called Hershey Kisses? All right, well, there's not a consensus on this, but most believe it's because of when they were first made, the first machines that made them, when they would form them and they'd pop out, it sounded like a kiss, okay? So it's not as romantic, it's not as dramatic, it's not as awesome, right, glamorous as you first thought, right? You thought it was all hugs and kisses, right? And it's just some machine that's just popping them out. It sounds like a kiss. Well, that's how being a mom is a lot of times. It's not always as glamorous as you think it is, right? There's some kisses there, there's some hugs, there's some sweetness, but there's some bitterness too. It's hard, it's difficult, it's a great responsibility. And this passage is a reminder that being a mom is not always easy, but God is going to take care of you. God's going to take care of you. And for all of us who are not moms, life's not always easy, but guess what? God takes care of us too. Let's pray. Father, I thank you, Lord, for Hagar and this message, Lord. And we tend to just push Hagar aside as this wicked woman, but Lord, she was just put in a bad situation. She was mistreated, she was abandoned, she was alone. And that's a picture of so many moms today, Lord. They're mistreated, they're abandoned, they're alone. Maybe they're not alone, they just feel lonely. Maybe they're not getting the support they need at home. Lord God, maybe they're just discouraged and just tired, Lord. Being a mom is tiring. There's never a day off, never a vacation from being a mom. And as I'm learning, even when the kids get out of the house and they become adults, mothers still have that burden for their kids, for them to make the good decisions, for them to do well in life, for them to follow the right path, to follow you. And so mothers are burdened, Lord, for their children. And I thank you for that. I thank you for that mother's heart that you place in everyone, Lord. I think about Emma and Chloe, Lord, at 4 and 2, playing with baby dolls. Why? Because you've placed within them a mother's heart. And Lord, how special it is, moms. What a blessing they are to us. So I pray you encourage each lady here today, each mom here today, Lord, whether they're hurting, whether they're tired, whether they just don't feel like they're understood or that no one understands what they're going through. Just remind them, Lord, that you are a God who sees and that you're a God who hears and that you are with them in a very present way. And for all of us today, maybe somebody here today is in the desert, in the wilderness, they're weary, they're tired, they're running out of resources, they're hopeless, they just want to sit and cry or sit and die, Lord. I pray you just encourage them today. Refresh them with your presence, Lord, with who you are. We thank you for Christ, the living water, our hope, our joy, our life. So we turn to him now. In Christ's name, amen. We'll stand and we're going to sing As the Deer Pants for Water. And maybe you just want to pray for ladies right now. Pray for moms and pray for God to encourage them. Or maybe you're a mom and just need some extra prayer. And just pray and thank God that he can see you and God hears you. Ask God to refresh you, to fill your cup. Whatever God has called you to do today, we're going to sing As a Deer Pants for Water.